Hi, I'm Dana Schwartz, and this is Rise or Die, the official companion podcast for Peacock's original series, Those About to Die. On this podcast, I go behind the scenes with the show's cast and creators to learn how they brought their brutal vision of Rome to life. I talked to acclaimed director and executive producer Roland Emmerich.
When I saw the first race, I was like giddy.
Actor Ewan Ryan.
For an actor, that's a dream, although you do get a lot of sand in your sandals.
And so many more.
You helped summon those ghosts back onto that stage.
Every day when I went to set, I was giggling about what I saw.
I think it's going to be a breathtaking thing.
People will freak out.
Rise or Die launches on July 18th. Watch or listen wherever you get your podcasts.
With your long-forgotten name, we call upon you.
We call upon you.
In the words of the unspeakable language, we call upon you.
We call upon you.
By the spilt blood of the wicked, who walk upon this world, sprouting the words of false idols, we call upon you.
We call upon you.
On the land of the dead harvest, that which brings the earth itself into your service, Yamal, we call upon you.
We call upon you. We call upon you. We call upon you.
Yamal calls upon you.
The Sprouting, a Call of Cthulhu actual play podcast by Blighthouse Studio. Find us on your podcatcher of choice.
As we mentioned in our previous episode, this is mine and Laura's final full-length episode as the central voices of Angel on Top. And we are so grateful, excited, and amped that Season 3 will be anchored by the incomparable LaToya Ferguson, who will also be joining us this episode.
But before we get into the Season 2 finale, There's No Place Like Plrtz Glrb, we wanted to quickly give a few notes about our Patreon. Starting October 1st, your Patreon support will transfer over to support future Season 3 episodes of Angel on Top. All the money will go toward LaToya, other BIPOC guests, co-hosts, and producers for their work on the podcast. Head on over to patreon.com/angelontopcast to read more about these changes, which have one simple $3 tier for contributing and also include new perks like Angel Watches with Jenny and Kristen of Buffering.
We're also very excited to release an Angel on Pot episode exclusively for our Patreon supporters in mid-September. Laura and I will be legally consuming some weed and then watching an angel-centric Buffy the Vampire Slayer episode. And the survey says that we will be watching I Only Have Eyes for You, which is one of my faves.
Just a reminder that our Black and Indigenous listeners can access our Patreon community spaces at no cost, including this upcoming Angel on Pot episode. Go to bufferingthevampireslayer.com/justkeepfighting, enter your email, and from there you'll be provided with a password that you will use for access.
And lastly, this is your last chance to get Season 1 and Season 2 Angel on Top merch before it goes away forever. So check out our merch store at angelontop.merchnow.com to see the giant sale going on until September 1st. Until then, they're retired forever, and everyone who owns them will be in possession of limited edition merch.
Welcome back to Angel on Top, a podcast where we watch and discuss every episode of Angel one by one, spoiler-free, and in tandem with Buffering the Vampire Slayer. I'm Laura Zach.
And I'm Brittany Ashley. And this week we're watching There's No Place Like Plrtz Glrb. Stick around until the end for an original poem written by us through the perspective of Angel, Angie, or Angrel. You decide.
There's No Place Like Plrtz Glrb was written and directed by David Greenwalt. It aired on May 22nd, 2001.
This is the one where Wesley and Gunn storm the Pylean castle while Angel fights the Groosalugg.
It's also the one where Angel has watched The Mask You Live In. And now, a very special welcome to today's guest, author, TV expert, host of Empire Diaries, and your new host of Angel on Top for Season 3, LaToya Ferguson. Welcome back to the podcast.
So good to have you here.
Hello, great to be here, everyone.
The first piece of business is Pylea. Where are we at? Where do we stand?
It's Pylea. And, of course, Lauren's bar is Caritas.
Not Caritas.
I was looking at it like margaritas.
I thought I was hearing like carnitas tacos whenever you would say it.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure they have great margaritas, and now I'm actually really hungry for tacos, but no, it's caritas.
Yeah, I think it's because I took Spanish all the way through school, and it really was just that Spanish influence that made me pronounce it this way.
Oh yeah, I can tell that your pronunciation in Spanish must be spectacular, Brittany.
I mean, in Spanish,
It was horrible.
In Spanish, wouldn't it be caritas?
Okay, yes, LaToya, it would be. The first thing that I am curious about, since we haven't spoken to you on the pod for a bit, is what is your take on the arc in Pylea?
I am a big fan of the Pylea arc. I know you guys were discussing at the beginning of it how some people thought that it was a matter of them not being able to get Julie Benz, as a way to close out the Darla arc. But I would say that this arc was always intentional for one very important reason, which is that Angel needed to be out of commission for the things happening at the end of Buffy season 5.
Oh, absolutely.
He needed to not be like an option to help them face Glory, basically.
And I definitely want to get into that later, and just like a missed opportunity of where the universes could have collided a bit. I think that that's a really smart point for sure, because if he believed that anything major was happening, he would have absolutely been in Sunnydale.
Exactly.
Let's take it from the top here, which is that, it's Lauren's head on a platter. Cordelia is wailing. The veil is starting to be lifted.
Again, after, being prisoner first. You'd think that would be the first tip off. But
it also felt like she forgot about that very quickly because she was no longer struggling. She was like, it didn't matter to her anymore that there were still a class of people that were in that position that she was before, but they don't have visions. So they weren't able to be given a throne, which I think was the line where Fred is like, oh, yeah, they didn't make me ruler. Like that's good for her, but that's not what happened to me. I think that that was a very funny mark on just how Cordelia has like completely forgotten about everyone else, basically.
Yeah, as soon as she was able to get back in the lap of luxury, she forgot all about the little people once more.
Totally, yeah, and I there's a part of me that believes that in the first and second season, if Cordelia struck it big in acting and got like some major role, she would have absolutely left Angel Investigations because she wants to feel what it's like to be like wealthy and popular again. That's been her want for so long, and with the end of this episode, I think it's really where it starts to shift. Obviously, her fighting to keep her visions is such a huge moment for her.
It feels like a Cordelia echo of the moment in the first season with Angel where he rejects the ring that would have made him human in favor of, following the work that he has to do. Yeah. Which I don't know that we've seen Cordelia so explicitly make that choice. So did we know before we did? This is the first time we're finding out about the mutilation decapitation rule for Lauren, correct? I mean, hence the reveal and surprise element of it.
Yeah, it's a surprise. This whole arc is we're learning a lot about Lauren, and we later learned that he does not have 5 toes.
Yeah. But the moment where Cordelia keeps screaming while Lauren is trying to calm her down, it really reminded me of that scene in Clue where Mr. Green slaps Mrs. Peacock across the face while she's screaming. And he's like, I had to stop her from screaming.
Except Lauren cannot slap her. And also Cordelia spits on his face. On his bodiless head. Yeah. I mean, granted, it was to convince the priest that she was not in cahoots with him, but don't know that was necessary. But yeah, in general, in this moment, Cordelia feels very much focusing on how hard this is for her. It's
Yes.
And Lauren's like, yeah, it's not like I lost a head or anything. We had a live watch just a couple hours ago with our Patreon for this episode as well. And we were talking a little bit about, it does feel like this world is bringing out a more like extreme parts of our characters' personalities in some ways. Obviously, we see it in the binary of Angel, which I don't know if you had listened to last week's episode, Latoya, but we had named the two sides, Angie and Angrel, in terms of kind of the spectrum of his two sides that come out here. But I feel like in some ways we're just seeing a lot of kind of like swooping extremes, like in all of our mains here, with the exception of Gunn, perhaps.
I mean, well, that's the whole Wizard of Oz arc of all of this, which is pretty key. They're all kind of finding something they need. Whereas I guess for Gunn, belonging was technically like the beginning of the arc before the arc really started. But like that's technically what he's looking for. It is interesting that, you know, obviously they're all finding something or realizing something major about themselves in this arc, but Gunn's not. Although Gunn is kind of realizing something about Wesley that I don't think he particularly likes.
And I think Cordelia as well. It's like both Cordelia and Wesley have these moments of a less savory aspects of their personality coming forward when they are given power and authority.
This is where Silas is talking about how he's really the master. And I wrote in my notes, the patriarchy.
The patriarchy!
Yeah.
He's like, we may have given you a promotion, but remember who gave you the promotion. Ultimately, it can take it away or behead your friends.
And it's also interesting that in this universe, they have a different name for vampires, but it means the same thing. They called Angel Vantal, which they said is drinker of blood, can only be killed by fire, decapitation, or a wooden spear through the heart. And so obviously their intention is to kill Angel as well as Wesley and Gunn, but obviously Wesley and Gunn are captured by the rebels right now. Even though the demon and Angel doesn't look the way that we perceive vampires, that's how all vampires look in Pylea, even though we've gotten so used to that furrowed brow, which one time I got sun poisoning in 9th grade, and I had that same furrowed brow of just that area between front of my eyebrows was just completely puffed out, and my sister kept calling me Spike, and it was very, very painful.
That's funny because one time I got sun poisoning and I looked more like Doyle.
Tell me all your thoughts on Doyle.
I've never had this issue.
Oh, blessed. So not to be a 13-year-old boy about the whole thing, but no offense to any 13-year-old boys who are listeners.
Hell yeah, Travis, we love you.
Love you, Travis. But can we just for a second like point out the wording of what's the name of the like green guy warrior who they send out to find Angel? Do we know his name?
I think he's just credited as the captain.
Okay, so the captain says that he is excited to, quote, personally put my spear in his rump. So, okay, just to further our theory from last episode that everyone in Pylea is on some level bi for Boreanaz, even if you're trying to kill him.
He's got a broody stare and hot spiky hair. If you're straight or gay, your tingly feelings don't care. You're just being honest about this sexy demonic and you're bi for Boreanaz. Bi for Boreanaz. Bi for Boreanaz.
Thin line between love and hate, apparently. And then we actually get to see that like bomb on the neck. We get to see it in action, unfortunately, on a human named Markala.
So
Very
what
unsavory.
I was unclear on why he got exploded.
Because he was feeding information to the rebels, and Silas realized that.
Did we see that sort of behind the scenes moment of him with the rebels, or it was just sort of we were learning about it here? Okay, got it.
Yeah, it's basically his I have eyes everywhere, and even if he was wrong, like he was still going to do it anyway, just to prove his dominance.
This is amazing, LaToya. It's basically like talking to someone who works on the show. I'm so excited to listen to next season.
Yeah. Especially when Laura and I have questions that like neither of us can answer. Yeah, it's truly incredible the knowledge that you have.
I didn't do much else in my life, but I learned a lot about TV. So
I mean, it is serving all of us very well.
The gift that keeps giving.
It's incredible. These human rebels are planning on killing Wesley and Gunn because they believe that they are collaborating with the kingdom and the priests and such. But before the axe can strike down on Wesley, these Imperial guards show up and start shooting the rebels with arrows. But luckily, Wesley and Gunn are miraculously able to lift themselves up, even though they still have the wooden pillories around their necks. They're using it as a weapon, which I thought was a very smart move.
Very smart move. It was at this moment that I noticed, like, all the rebels, basically all the slaves, all the quote-unquote cows, even here, they're all white. I like made a joke in my notes. It's like, oh, it's because people of color aren't going to be reading some nonsense from a book and then going through a portal. But it's not. it's obviously not every human in that dimension went through a portal. Like they're just born there, obviously. So it seems like a choice perhaps was like, well, they're white slaves, so it wouldn't be as offensive because it'd be really awkward if we made them like black, you know. But I feel like there should be some people of color at any point.
Yeah, they were going hard on that allegory there. It was a little bit like Bright. I actually never saw Bright, but so I guess I shouldn't allude to it. But like that sort of. But using like allegory of like other species to like talk about slavery or discrimination or racism. Yeah, and I had that thought as well. Like it felt like they were walking a tentative line there.
Yeah, and in the live watch, we actually did ponder how some of the humans ended up there. Like, I don't believe that every rebel was a physicist like Fred who had opened up a portal and ended up there. So do you have any, LaToya, do you have any insight on how like a bunch of those humans kind of ended up there? Were people just born into these situations after a few humans kind of ended up in that world?
I just imagine that it does seem like they were born into this world. It doesn't even have to be a matter of the wormhole, but it could be, obviously. But the thing is, if we're going to use the slave allegory, perhaps they were from a different part of Pylea, and then they were brought here to be slaves. And obviously, like, the Groosalugg is half human, half demon. So, well, half, as they say, cow, half demon. So they're part of this world, but they are a lesser form. And so they do address people being sent through the portal at a later time. But obviously that couldn't account for every person there.
Right.
Yeah, and it would line up with what Lauren's mom says about how now since all the cows are free, who's going to do our labor? Like it would make sense that even aside from the kingdom, there are groups of like different, species within Pylea who depend on this slave labor. So I imagine there's a demand for it.
It also makes sense why the rebel group so quickly took Wesley as their leader. Like maybe they, given that they only know this world, maybe that's why his like very basic level strategy was so impressive to them. You're just like, oh, whoa, all right. This guy's got ideas.
He introduced them to guerrilla warfare, which they had never heard of. So
exactly.
So the scene with Angie being woken up by Fred, who has picked some berries and is making oatmeal, and like did I snore? No, but you shrieked. The vibe between Fred and Angel is quite strange. It's a strange thing that, especially getting to know Fred later on, it's like weird to know that there was these moments between them that it was hard to decipher whether her intention / like her fascination with him, it was from this place of like admiration that Angel is just like larger than life and he's this man who saved her, which I understand he is a man who saved her.
I mean, he is the handsome man who saved her from the monsters. I feel like the first time any of us see David Boreanaz, we all are kind of struck like Fred is. Honestly, he's a broad-shouldered, large man. And if he's gonna save the day like that, I think I would also have the same reaction as Fred.
All right.
I think there should be more questions that are just the answer is just, well, he was a broad-shouldered, large man.
What do you want from me?
You got 5 seasons of he's a broad-shouldered, large man. But yeah,
I think that's how he's pitched to lead other shows too. They're like, okay, so Bones is about this scientist, and then this broad-shouldered man, and then okay, SEAL Team is about like Navy SEALs, but it's also about this broad-shouldered man.
Yes, that's how you get a show made. Duh.
Sold.
Angel is kind of like her first real amount of hope because, yeah, she met Cordy as a fellow slave, and then Cordy was promoted to queen and just kind of left her behind.
Yes.
So, like, Angel is her savior. And with that, I guess she's imprinted on him, if you will.
Yeah, and I think, too, there's something about their relationship that is symbiotic and reciprocal. So also, I think she feels good to have a purpose and be taking care of him. So I think it's like serving her in multiple ways. And also, just to be fair to Fred, like she's now been potentially in this cave for at least for up to 5 years. And I'm just thinking about when the first time I saw another human after maybe 3.5 months of lockdown, I was definitely like not, I was a little quirky. I definitely wanted to chat. I wanted to hear about their lives. And when they were wanting to wrap up the conversation, I just, was like, anything else you want to tell me about? So I think if you extended that to being fully alone for 5 years, okay, fair. She's earned her quirk.
That's true.
Yeah, the other day when Jenny dropped off recording equipment, I was just so excited to see a new person who's not my family. The Angel Fred thing is kind of symbiotic because before they came to Pylea, of course, Angel was frustrated because he felt like he couldn't be the hero he needed to be. He felt like he was being judged basically every turn. But Fred doesn't judge him at all, ever. And she's not even afraid of seeing a little bumpy.
One of Angel's major traumas is having to build a relationship with someone and see if they'll judge him for being a vampire. And for Fred to say, we've all got our demons is just a very accepting statement for him, where he's able to see that the quote unquote good and bad inside of him can coexist. It's interesting because in some ways I thought that his arc was a little regressive.
I mean, I feel like this is kind of necessary after the arc that you guys, of course, call the Angle arc, which everyone prior to this called it Beige Angel, but I love Angle now.
That's amazing.
You know what? There's everyone prior, and then there's us, okay? Yeah. We don't follow those rules.
He's not been quite back to normal Angel, at least whatever is considered normal for him, since, getting back with the team, Wesley in charge. He's still kind of walking on eggshells in that. Mm-hmm. So he needs to get back to that kind of that base level that obviously he's been through before, but he's still not there right now with this arc is basically what's happening. So that's why I'm fine with fair. It, repeating these beats, because it has been a weird time, and he's basically going through hell here to save his friends and to prove, he's not going to be Angle again.
That's fair.
And it does feel too that in this arc he gets to more deeply connect to his humanity on multiple levels, both in that he gets to experience things that make him feel more human, like feeling the sunlight, but also, in what happens at the end of this episode of being able to
turn it off.
Yeah, to have this self-possession and to return to his man self, even when he's in his most extreme form of demon.
Yeah, like understanding that he's in control of the monster inside of him and not the other way around.
Which,
Yeah.
I mean, in Angle days, we definitely felt the opposite of that.
So Cordelia's goal is to get to the mutilation chamber, obviously to put Lorne back together. And Cordelia has called in this human woman who bows to her, and Cordelia's like, no, you're a woman. You don't do that here. I love women. And Cordelia is like, take me to the mutilation chamber. All right, if you can't take me, then give me your clothes and I'll pose. I'll pose as you, basically. And so part that I hated in this episode was when Cordelia and the human woman are both presumably changing clothes, and Lorne, whose eyes were closed at the beginning of the scene, then opens and widens, obviously showing that he is watching them change and is really like excited by it, which obviously is a huge invasion of privacy. And we brought it up in the live watch that it was like this peeping Tom trope that was a huge thing in comedy for so long, in Back to the Future, in Animal House, Revenge of the Nerds, Porky's. It was always like watching a woman change when she's unaware. And I always felt as though Lorne was above that. And so this was disappointing.
Yeah, it sucks.
We want him to be a bicon that we can respect. Not like a bicon that comes out in creepy ways.
Yeah, and I think that it was incredibly out of character for him, and I think that it was just written for the joke of the fact that the woman doesn't know that the head on the pillow is still alive and blah, 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 blah. But yeah, it felt like incredibly out of character and just really unfortunate.
Well, do you want a fun fact from this scene to get away from the grossness?
LaToya, I want that fun fact. Give me that FF.
So the server girl was previously in an episode of Buffy. Do you know which one?
Come on, Brittany.
What season?
Season 3.
Was it one episode or a
It was one episode.
recurring?
It was one episode. Yeah.
Was she in
Earshot?
No.
God damn it.
Wait, let me see. What if I get it and you don't, Brittany? Will you ever forgive me? Was she in Bad Girls?
No.
Was she in Dead Man's Party?
No.
The Prom?
No. Are you just listing every episode now? So I realized this, like, watching it, I'm like, hey, she looks familiar. And I double checked. It's like, oh yeah, she's from this episode of Buffy.
Okay, go ahead.
It's the Zeppo. She is the girl who gets with Xander because of his car.
That was honestly gonna be one of my guesses. And because I had just read in the book Sex and the Slayer about the different types of like man, like the new man and the old man. And I forget his name. Was his name Jack? The guy in the Zeppo. Yeah, yes. It was all about him and how he represents like this certain type of man that Xander, wants to be in this episode, but clearly can never be. And that scene, I was like thinking about it, and fuck, that was so like in my brain in the last week too. I'm really disappointed.
Well, that was fun.
That was fun. No, that actually was quite fun.
I honestly would play an entire just game that the only like point of the game is LaToya thinks of a Buffy episode, and then we have to try to guess it based on the clues.
Oh, yeah. I'm about to do that again for another actor in this episode later. So,
yes,
excellent. So back in the cave, Fred and Angie are talking, and in some ways, Fred is trying to get him to see the positive sides of being here. Like, she's like, oh, in some ways it's better for you here because of the sun. But then he does point out that there's also that tricky little thing that he wants to rip his friends apart when he's here and turns into a demon. And he sees some words and symbols and letters on the wall. And Fred explains that they are consonant representations of a formula that she was trying to use to reopen the portal, and she has not been successful for 5 years. She basically is giving up and thinks that it doesn't work on this side. And Angel's like, au contraire, like, how did Landok get through? How did Lauren get through? And then some dudes drop in and start attacking Angel.
Yeah, these Imperial guards are back, and that like the captain is purposefully stabbing Angel, but not in the heart just yet, because it's kind of clear that he probably wants to. He had mentioned before that he wants to kill him in all the ways that you can kill him, and so this is just kind of like the first step in what we believe will be a very painful death. And Angie is about to become Angral, but he prevents it, even though that is the thing that even though that is the thing that would help him survive and fight better. It kind of reminds me of when Doyle would refuse to change into his demon self in order to fight more efficiently. He was just too afraid to go into that part. And well, Doyle was more so like ashamed of it, but it kind of reminded me of that in a way.
Indeed. And then Fred ends up being the one to save Angel. She hits the captain over the head from behind. So again, continuing this sort of symbiotic vibe they got going on. Cave life. And then back with Gunn and Wesley after the fight with the rebels, where the rebels won the fight against the Imperial guards. They pivot pretty quickly and we're just like, yo, so our enemies thought you were their enemy, so sorry about trying to decapitate you. Our bad, bros. And Gunn and Wesley get to more fully share what they had been trying to share before, of like, we're trying to save the princess before she has to mate with the Groosalugg, and that kind of further cements like, okay, like you guys are cool, we're gonna let you go. But basically, pretty quickly Wesley and Gunn realize that they need the help and the manpower, so stick around to kind of join forces.
Yeah, and Gunn mentions, obviously, having known that one of his friends that he used to fight with died, he wants to do as much as he can to prevent other people from dying. He just doesn't want to he doesn't want to contribute to like the cycle of people dying as they fight for good. And so he wants to go back.
So Angel comes to a second time. He didn't actually change this time. He resisted it. And he's clearly afraid. I mean, it's kind of an echo of like when we first saw him change into Angelus, the first season of Buffy. Like this feeling of like, once I change, I might not be able to turn back, or I'll get stuck there. And Fred is...
I think you just need to lead him to a pond so that he could see his reflection, and then all will be returned.
But he won't be able to see it in the real world. Oh, yeah. You mean here? Yeah.
Yeah.
well, now he's not happy to see his reflection. He doesn't like it. He doesn't like it anymore. He's not a shallow Angel anymore, unfortunately.
I know. Such a short but beautiful span of time.
I get it's a toss up between which I love more, shallow Angel or cheap old man Angel.
Oh, I love cheap old man Angel. I love the fact that like I hate it, but I love the idea that he still probably believes that like Coca-Cola is 35 cents a bottle and won't pay any more than that.
Wow, I also really like Brittany's cheap old man voice.
Yeah. So Cordelia is in disguise. She brings Lauren's head in to find his body. And I mean, obviously it's the one in the bright red suit, or so we think. And as LaToya pointed out earlier, Lauren is like, wait, since when do I have 5 toes? And it's clear that the body that was placed into Lauren's suit is actually not his body. It was Groosalugg who did that. He switched up the body parts into the suit to confuse whoever may come in, and his actual body is on Lauren's mother's farm. So Gru did this incredibly sweet thing without having to be told. He did a very risky thing. Like his his place in the kingdom would probably be at risk if anyone found out about this. And yeah, he was really just looking out for someone who Cordelia cared about, which was very sweet. And it really showed that even though I believe that there's parts of him that are a little bit lobotomized, I do believe that this was him thinking for himself and really kind of taking a risk in a way that like a hero would.
I mean, yeah, he's a champion. He's a beautiful meathead, but he is a champion. He's a good guy. I don't know how we feel about the himbo discourse, but I'd say he's a himbo, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, we've seen both Angel and Buffy have had their own moments of having to like undertake some sort of obstacle course or challenge. It's not called an obstacle course, I know, but take on like some sort of challenge that tests their strength both in mind and in body. And so, you know, given that Groosalugg has defeated literally everyone he's encountered, I guess I just want to advocate that maybe he's got a little bit more going on than we think. Granted, it seems like the caliber of thought and strategy that you need in this dimension is maybe like a little bit below what you might need back with the complexities and gray space of Earth or whatever our dimension is called. But anyway, footnote in that.
Look, Groosalugg is not book smart, but he is street smart. So there you go.
Yes, there you go. It's as simple as that.
And so Wes,
he's put in charge. He asks Gunn, like, why do people keep putting me in charge? And Gunn's like, I literally do not know.
And when that moment happened, I'm like, wow, I'm Wesley.
No, God, no.
Nothing like Wesley. Maybe if Wesley was a freaking expert in Pylea, you are.
I think he kind of is.
Yeah, he like learns it very quickly.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I'm writing the poem obviously this week from Angel's perspective, and I'm just like, man, they really spend a lot of time just speaking soft things to each other in that cave. Just a lot of like, now are you okay? Are you sure you're okay? I'm a monster. No, you're not a monster. I miss tacos. Just a lot of shooting the shit in that cave.
Yeah, he's not incredibly active in this episode.
I really need to order tacos after this recording, by the way. It's come up too many times.
I think the fact that she was able to make a bark enchilada says a lot about her. She would like really do well on Chopped is what I'm thinking. It's like, all right, you've got these like maybe poisonous berries. You've got this bark. You've got these leaves. What can you do in your basket? And then she puts it all together. I've watched a lot of Chopped in quarantine. It's Chopped and then MTV's The Challenge. Those have been my two binges.
Yes. We'll talk about The Challenge off mic.
Laura, you really are missing the longest running soap opera on television.
I mean, I watched a lot of the original
sport.
seasons.
Yeah. But like now it's so intensely athletic.
It's crazy to see what like the final challenges are now, where it's like, you're going to be out in the glaciers for 3 days and you're going to camp out with nothing. Whereas like season 11, the final was like, you're going to pump up a little boat and then you're just going to go right over there. And then whoever wins. It's amazing. Yeah. And everyone is like so kind to each other. There's no alliances. It's just like very lighthearted. And then once like Johnny and Kenny and Wes and like Evan start to, feel emasculated by the fact that they have no strength. They're like, we're going to mentally fuck over everyone.
It sounds like something that the Groosalugg would win.
The Groosalugg could win on like strength and agility alone, but like for smarts though, I don't know if he'd probably get screwed over in elimination because he trusts the wrong person.
He'd make an alliance with everyone. He wouldn't realize that you can only make alliances with some people.
Yeah, I feel like Cordelia would be kicked off like the first challenge because it would be like a heights challenge and she would cry and she'd be like, I can't do it. She'd be like one of those female contestants.
No. Cordelia would go all the way. We got ourselves like at least a Cara Maria with her.
I could see that. Yeah. Like the growth of it where people underestimate her and then she really comes through.
Gunn would fucking wreck everyone actually. Like Gunn would be like the stealth. He'd be like one of those like just quiet, minds his own business and he like wins everything.
Like a Derek.
Mm-hmm. Like a Derek or a Darrell, yeah. You fucking crush it.
Yeah. I love that we have this language too.
Then we learn that Cordelia, I think she brushed against Groosalugg's penis in the dark.
Yeah, she did.
You really aren't mincing words here.
Hey, I'm an adult woman. But basically he's explaining to her that this risk that he took by defying his orders, by helping her without even her asking, I may point out, helping her by switching Lauren's body so that he would survive, was worth it. All for one moment of intimate touch. And then Cordelia's like, oh, it was dark. I mean, I didn't know you noticed that. And then she realizes he just meant the hug. What an innocent.
He's an acts of service love language guy.
Yeah, and I think she's physical touch and verbal words of affirmation.
And gifts.
Yeah, she's kind of all of it.
Yeah. She's like, I prefer every single thing that you could possibly
Every
give
love
to me.
language is Cordelia's love language.
What's instinctual to him is there's some moments where you can't listen to orders. You go with your instinct on what is right, and rather than just being like a cog in a machine or a cog in a system. A hero is someone who knows what the right thing to do is or what the best thing to do is, and he really does have an affinity for that, which is why I do support her, handing over her power to him, because that was a moment where he proved that he really does have a humanity inside of him that's admirable.
Yeah, and he's humble too, because he even tells her like he doesn't consider himself a true champion because he fights who they tell him to. But like just knowing him for even one scene, you can kind of tell this guy's a champion.
Oh, for sure. Big champ.
He does another sweet thing of setting up expectations for physical intimacy, where he's like, so what's going to happen is we're going to make love, and then your visions are going to be absorbed into my demon blood. And, this is the most information Cordelia has received about what the intention of this mating ritual is. And this is a pretty profound moment of Cordelia it felt like she was discovering for herself how she really feels about having her visions through sharing with him and through kind of grappling with, I don't want you to take my visions. Like, this is part of who I am and I need them and it's an honor. And we've definitely seen her struggle this season with the visions becoming more and more painful to her. And, it doesn't even seem like they don't even give her a beat of considering it first and being like, oh, actually, okay, let's do this then. Let's get down right now. Like, I'm going to be relieved of this burden, which I like that. I like that she felt, when it was a real possibility, she felt very secure in what she knew she wanted to do.
Definitely.
Yeah. On my other podcast, The Vampire Diaries, this is usually the type of scene where I'd say, everyone get out your Vampire Diaries and write this down, which is that, yeah, I do say that because I'm a nerd, which is where Gru says that because he's half demon, like the visions aren't meant for humans to sustain. And then Cordelia even makes a point about how, like, yes, the visions I love, which are getting progressively worse, which that can't be good, you guys.
No, sure can't. I think we're going to be hearing about this.
So yeah, like I said, write that in your Vampire Diaries, everyone.
Make note. I think you could use that, the Vampire Diary. I mean, that applies to this show too. So I really hope you continue that segment.
Yeah, this could be your calling card. Like, the way that Ira is keep it, I think you are get out your Vampire Diaries.
Honestly, I look forward to the time when I can buy an Angel on Top Vampire Diary from the merch store.
Yeah.
Yes. That's it. We found it. We figured it out now. Everything's going to be okay for season 3, you guys.
Yeah. Everyone's going to have these beautiful diaries.
Dana Schwartz, and this is Rise or Die, the official companion podcast for Peacock's original series, Those About to Die. On this podcast, I go behind the scenes with the show's cast and creators to learn how they brought their brutal vision of Rome to life.
Gosh, people will freak out.
Rise or Die launches on July 18th. Watch or listen wherever you get your podcasts.
A bloodbath tonight in the rural town of Chinook.
Everyone here is hiding a secret.
4 more victims found scattered.
Some worse than others.
I came as fast as I could. I'm Deputy Ruth Vogel.
And soon, my quiet life will never be the same.
Realm presents a 30 Ninjas production, Chinook, starring Kelly Marie Tran and Sanaa Lathan. Listen to Chinook wherever you get your podcasts.
As she's talking about her visions, Cordelia slips into a vision where she sees a terrifying looking demon attacking her sweet baby Gru and winning.
And who is this demon?
I mean, we do know.
Yeah,
we do know. We see who it is. She doesn't know who it is, but we know who it is.
Wes, Gunn, and the rebels are kind of like coming up with their plan. And while Wesley is coming up with this plan, out pops Angel from behind the tree, who was, we don't know how long he was listening to this plan, but he found the perfect moment to say, not in this universe or whatever he said. And then Fred meets Wesley and Gunn for the first time. And Wesley wants Angel's opinion on what to do, but Angel's tapping out of this big kingdom fight. He apologizes to Gunn as well because he obviously attacked Gunn as Angrel, and he has a fear of changing and not being able to change back. And so I think this is the moment where Wesley, it kind of like kicks into gear for him, where he takes off his glasses and he's like, okay, I really got to do this thing now.
Yeah, when the scene begins, Gunn and Wes are going over the plan, and Gunn's like, well, I wouldn't split my crew up if I was leading this charge. And he's like, well, good thing you're not leading this charge, basically. So like Wesley's got his big boy pants on basically already, but when Angel shows up, he kind of like retreats back into the, oh, you're the real leader, Angel, you do this. And Angel's like, nope, can't do this. So with that, Wesley has quote unquote been the boss for like this back of the season, but I think now is when he, like, here in Pylea is when he truly becomes the leader that he's going to be, whether Gunn likes that or not, honestly,
or whether his dad likes it or not.
Yeah, I feel like real quick, he just like read Machiavelli and was like, oh, I got some new thoughts about leadership. You can't save them all. So, he's just like taking this kind of like hard line. And obviously, Gunn is coming off of losing one of his close friends, and he partly blames himself, and he blames himself for not being there. And the sort of like splitting up mentality is what has historically lost people that he cares about in LA. So yeah, we're definitely seeing a little bit of Gunn and Wesley have had this like pretty tight friendship, and I think we are seeing a little bit of branching off of philosophies here.
Yeah, I'm curious. Actually, I do have a question about something that's happening, which is that, so obviously we're seeing how Wes is advancing as a leader here, but like, what is the lesson for Gunn? Basically to fall in line, because that seems to be what it is.
Yeah, I just feel like in this arc, they didn't fully develop what they wanted Gunn to take away from it, which is obviously something that we pointed out in the beginning, that like everyone kind of like locks into this new version of themselves. But with Gunn, he stays centered pretty consistently as we've seen him before. Like is his takeaway that some people have to die in order for the greater good, even though you don't want them to? Like, is that what Wesley is trying to get across with him?
I mean, that makes sense, but at the same time, that's not really the lesson he needed to learn for his fallen friend, honestly.
No. Oh, God, no. Mm-hmm. Absolutely not.
Yeah, it's a good lesson to have, but that's based on the reason he's in the state he's in now. That's not the lesson he needed to learn. So it's, that's why it's muddled. In theory, it's a good story and a lesson from to learn, but based on what led us there, not so much.
it's not like Wesley is volunteering to be that first line. You know, like there's that moment later when they're about to storm the castle and he gives this like has this moment of loaded eye contact with one of the rebels who then calls out and like leads the charge. And I think a lot of those people in that first wave are like who are being potentially sacrificed. And so it's also this type of like cowardice or an unwillingness to put himself in that kind of like front line of people that he's sending out, which isn't really, it's a type of like battle strategy that's certainly not been the MO for like what Angel investigations, how they function and work. Like usually they're asking other people to hang back so that they can go forward. So I agree with you that I'm not really clear on the takeaway for Gunn, and I'm not sure if that's something that we're going to get more of in beginning of season 3 or expand upon. But in terms of the tidiness of this episode as a finale, I think that's certainly like something that is unresolved and unsatisfying.
And now, time for another trivia question.
Yes.
So of the rebels, they have 2 leaders. There is curly-haired guy and buzzcut guy. You recall?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I do.
So buzzcut guy is played by Jamie McShane, who's been in actually a bunch of stuff. He was in Sons of Anarchy. He was in The Passage last season. He's on SEAL Team with Boreanaz right now, actually. But he was also in an episode of Angel earlier this season. What episode?
And again, so this was a speaking role?
Yes. He did speak. It was great.
I want to say, okay, my first guess is that he was in Are You Now or Have You Ever Been?
Okay, my first guess is The Trial.
No.
Okay.
My second guess is Blood Money.
My second guess is The Thin Dead Line. I could see him being a cop.
Incorrect. The episode was Redefinition as a demon. He is the demon who tells Darla and Drusilla, "I've never heard of you." And Drusilla rips off his ears, and Darla says, "And now you never will."
Oh my God, that's incredible.
Iconic scene.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. See, I was picturing his face. I was picturing his face as a human and not as a demon or a vampire. Damn.
Yeah, same. I was trying to think of episodes that had like human ensembles. I don't know why. Why are we so limited in our thinking?
So now it is time for the mating. But before we get to the mating, do you think it's kind of the perfect time for us to do Fuck Watch?
Yeah, I would love a little pre-mating Fuck Watch.
Flirting, understanding, consent, and kissing. Flirting, understanding, consent, and kissing. Fuck Watch.
All right, LaToya, as our guest, I would love for you to go first, if you may.
Well, we haven't really gotten like fully into it in this episode yet, but I will just say it's Wesley, and especially Wesley with that sword. As like my last Fuck Watch pick, which was Drusilla with that shovel, I apparently love characters with a prop. So yeah, Wesley with that sword was doing a lot of things for me in this episode.
Oh yeah, I feel like it brought out like holding that sword allowed Alexis to like access a whole different dimension of emotion.
Yeah, him getting like very serious about how people will die while holding that sword. I was like, okay, yes, please.
I am interested. Solid pick. So I may have already given myself away with my Groosalugg apologism, but I know that you picked him last week, Brittany, but something about, long-haired guy. And I do think that he has a good heart, and he is a true champ, as Cordelia would say. And if he's good enough for Cordelia to love, then he's good enough for me. And how about you, Britt?
Yeah. So, I'm just kind of, thinking about the last season, and, I really love emotional growth, which is why I'm a fan of Love Island. And I just believe that someone who's taken some twists, some turns, some dips, some dives, some lunges, some squat thrusts, I think that the character that I want to choose is Angel.
Aww.
We all have trauma inside of us, and it, I think sometimes it causes us to move it causes us to move through the world in a certain way, but it can also push us towards, professions or passions or whatnot. And, his wanting to save other people is really admirable, because it comes at such a cost to him, and he's had to make so many sacrifices, obviously, with I Will Remember You. He's just very selfless in the regard that the one thing that he's ever really wanted, which was Buffy, he is sacrificed so that she could live, so that the world could continue, basically. And I think that there's many people who wouldn't have made that choice, who would choose their own happiness, and he chooses other people's happiness a lot in that regard. And I think that even though he believes he is a monster, I find him very human. And I love the guy. I love that broad-shouldered man.
Wow, that was a lot of words to say. You just want to get closer to Buffy.
Yeah, or that I'm bi for Boreanaz. But yes, that I want to get closer to Buffy.
Flirting, understanding, consent, and kissing. Flirting, understanding, consent, and kissing. Fuck watch.
So now it is time for mating. This is the way that, again, Marie Antoinette stuff, because I think there's just a lot of allusions to her, and I think that the Princess Cordelia character was very much mirrored after her. Back when she was appointed royalty, the way that her royalty became official was Marie Antoinette and Louis XVI, when they were teenagers, had to have sex in front of everyone to prove that she could be fertile, because the whole point of her being in this role was to create a large kingdom by having a lot of kids and blah, 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 passing it down.
This Silas guy is the one really leading the charge, just do it, start mating. And Silas the priest really gives me biblical literalist vibes. He's very just this is literally what the scripture says. And it's dude, there's a lot about shellfish in there too. Calm down. But yeah, he's bumming me out. But yeah, Angel shows up to challenge the Groosalugg to in mortal combat. To get the Groosalugg really amped up for battle, Silas is whispering disgusting nothings into his ear about how Cordelia is going to be raped by Angel and then killed if Groosalugg doesn't defeat him. And so he goes in really focused on Cordelia's behalf, which of course is even though it's oh, that's sweet, it's of course another layer of patriarchy to be I am fighting for this woman's sexual virtue.
Yeah, well, it's also I feel a common trope of using the rape of a woman to show that the other man who stops it is a really good man, but not actually dealing with the complexity of what would happen to the woman.
Yeah, and not to mention that they were about to rape Cordelia. It just so happened that she likes Groosalugg.
Right, totally. Yeah, it's not a morally righteous thing that how dare he touch this princess, but it's you were willing to go along with a prophecy that means you have to sleep with the princess whether she likes it or not. But luckily for everyone involved, she does like you.
Quite lucky, actually. I'm just imagining if Gru was a dick, that would suck.
Yeah, it'd be a completely different storyline.
Yeah, it makes me upset now. Makes me very upset. Yeah. Makes me as upset as Gru is.
Let me find you something to fight, LaToya. I'll call Uber Eats and they'll bring you a taco and someone to engage in Mortal Kombat with. And then Wesley's plan is put into action. They have, once Gru is out there, they have the rebels storm the castle. I actually thought that Gru's first move when he faces down Angel was pretty like baller. He's like, I'm just going to put my hand in this fire and make eye contact with you. And then Fred's like, yeah, so he's the Groosalugg. He overcomes all things. Good luck.
Yeah.
Which, question, I don't know if you guys have talked about it really. I can't remember that from the episodes. How do you guys feel about Fred and Amy Acker's performance as Fred?
I like Fred, and I think that she is a fun... She, like as Wesley moves towards being more confident, it leaves a space open for kind of like a smart, like, but also very like bumbling, awkward person. So I like her, and I think Amy Acker is incredibly endearing in that way. And her and Cordelia couldn't be like more different, which I like as well. But yeah, what do you think?
I also like her. I think at first I was a little bit, and I kind of alluded to this on the live watch, like I feel like there's a little bit at first that feels very like male gaze. Like it felt very like she's not like other girls. She's like smart and nerdy and like a little wacky. But I kind of assume that like I can tell that I am going to grow to love her, and I do like the performance, and I assume maybe I'm going to go on a similar journey as I went on with Anya, where like at first I was just sort of like, oh, what's up with this person, and then you like grow to deeply love their weirdness. And yeah, so that's where I'm at right now without having like fully remembered from many years ago when I watched further on, you know, where her arc is taken.
Yeah, I kind of always hated like the, oh, she's so wacky. It's like, no, she's traumatized. And she, like, everything's basically upside down for her, and she's just now finally having human contact for the first time in 5 years. So I feel like her behavior makes a lot of sense, especially now that we're all stuck in our homes and we're going wild just after many months. Again, 5 years stuck in Pylea. 5 years.
For sure. She's earned these Nell vibes.
Yeah. She could be Nell from the movie Nell all she wants. But yeah, I love Amy Acker. Love her on the show. Love her in Dollhouse. I always suggest to everyone, watch Person of Interest. You don't think you want to watch Person of Interest, but you do. And her love story with Sarah Shahi's character is beautiful. So
with Carmen?
Yeah,
excuse me?
Oh, you don't know? They are the love story of Person of Interest.
All right, I'm starting that tonight.
It turns out I am the person of interest right now because I am interested.
So yeah, let me give you a backstory so you don't just start the show and you're like, well, this is just a bunch of dudes. So the way Person of Interest started, basically, it seems very procedural because like Jonah Nolan tricked CBS into putting the show on, basically. So it's like stars Jim Caviezel and Michael Emerson and Taraji P. Henson. And it's like a lot of it is just Jim Caviezel doing things. And then towards the end of the first season, he's like, when we come back, like, I need more people on this show, so I'm not doing all the work. And he suggested more women. So at the end of season 1, Amy like comes into the show. And then early in season 2, Sarah joins the show as well. And they're beautiful. And I love them.
Wow.
All right.
So it sounds like I'm just going to start at the end of season 1.
Yeah, you can start. If you want to, you can start with Amy's first episode. It's like season 1's very procedural, but like it's also like building the bones of what the show actually is. It's like an allegory about like AI and like the government. You know, it was basically talking about how the NSA was spying on you before it broke that the NSA was spying on all of us.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I wonder if the NSA ever listens to me talk about Buffy and Angel and is like, oh my God, this girl's so annoying. And then they're like, never mind, we're not going to spy on her anymore.
The agent tasked to you is like, God damn it, not Buffy again.
Yeah. Does this girl have anything else to talk about?
I wonder if there's like a very super secret internal network of
Like a
NSA
Slack.
that has their own podcasts that are podcasts about people they listen to.
So the fight with Angel and Groosalugg is not looking so good for Angie if he doesn't go Angrel. And he like gets kicked to the side, and Fred is like, "You can't hold back, you'll die." And one of mine and Laura's favorite quotes from this episode is, "I'm not holding back, I'm holding on."
Just
and
like
I already
Avril said.
Yeah, I got it tattooed across my navel already. It goes around in a circle. So Wes and Gunn, obviously they had used the rebels as a distraction so that they could get inside the kingdom, and they fight the Imperial Guards with the swords. And again, like it's a wild visual to see how far Wesley has come since he entered, even since he was on Buffy. He was this like very put together watcher who always listened to the Watchers Council, and there was no like real depth to the decisions that he was making. It was always to follow rules. And he it's a huge turning point for him in Angel, obviously, but also with this episode specifically. Like he's not being super careful anymore. He's trying to be very fearless, and the training wheels are off because Angel isn't there, and he's calling the shots, and he's facing consequences, and he's really just like moving into this more this like stronger version of himself. It's really fun to watch.
And when the priest comes into Cordelia, she tries to warn them about her vision about Gru and, being killed potentially by Angel, although she doesn't know it's Angel yet. And Silas straight up punches her in the face and says this is all her fault. And if she thinks she can destroy their way of life, think again. He says he'll kill every cow before that happens. Basically threatens to blow up her head, right? That's what that machine does.
Oh, yeah. That's a head blower upper.
It's a head blower upper, but for like all the humans have the neck thing, so it's not even going to blow up her head. It's not going to blow up the rebels' heads. They don't have the neck thing.
Maybe
so
whatever
stupid.
they put in like the metal of her bra, it like serves the same purpose.
Or it's like Miss Congeniality and it's in her crown.
Ooh, dark.
But yeah, it's still not going to kill the rebels because they took all their necklaces off anyway.
He's overly reliant on one toy. So back in the fight, Gru has, tied down one of Angel's wrists, and he is hitting Angel and calls him an animal. And then in that moment, Angel turns into Angrel and rips his wrist free. Finally has like a leg up on Gru. We then get another scene of one of our women destroying one of the powerful villains when we get to see Cordelia behead Silas. And this is when he's about to attack Wesley.
He's giving the evil villain speech.
But she wants to get to Gru because she's like, I saw in my vision that he's facing a terrible beast. And Wesley is like, no, that's actually Angel. That's Angel who you saw. And so she wants to rush down there as quickly as possible to stop this fight between two men that she deeply cares for. And Angrel is winning against this fight with the Groosalugg, but then he is able to like possess himself, turn back, and he's like, we're not going to do this. We're going to find another way. He's able to stop himself from this turn of not being able to go back that he had feared. He believes he's not an animal. He's more in control of the human part of him.
And then Cordelia calls Angel a dumbass and then says that she loves Gru.
Well, yeah,
and hurts Angel's little feelings.
It's like, I love him. Who, me? No, dumbass.
Oh, harsh. That is a harsh way to end a fight. And then Angel's like, I mean, you love me too, right?
Yeah,
and
then
he's
like really hung up on it.
talking himself off a ledge. Like, I guess like coworker, friend, maybe love isn't the right word for that. I don't know.
But Cordelia is now like the priests have been defeated, and her goal now is to prove herself as this fair and compassionate ruler to the rebels. She wants to make things more fair in Pylea. She basically like puts one of the priests as like a secretary or a scroll, and all the former servants are now freed, but there's still a lot of complexity with this new power, with this power shift, and not everything is just going to run smoothly, which they make Gunn explain.
I do like that Cordelia knows what the Reconstruction is, just because I remember from Buffy season 1 that Buffy didn't know what the Reconstruction was. So that was nice at least. But yeah, Gunn gets to say it because he's black.
Like, you want to take this one black character?
Let me break it. Yeah, let me break it down for you. Yeah. No, especially when they've just, Wesley has just ignored his advice in terms of the actual tactics of warfare, but then everyone's, eager to, he's the one who has the most savvy and sophisticated understanding of like Reconstruction and all the like systems at play that are now going to be a challenge in this culture. And I think that, Cordelia, I agree with you, LaToya. I liked too that she understood these concepts and understood it wasn't going to be quite so simple, but it still was a very like oversimplified view of abolition that she had that was very just like, it felt like she was in some ways sort of reciting like, this is what the good queen says, like, I will restore justice to the land, and and we were talking about in the live watch that it doesn't seem, it seems like everyone that is of Lorne and his family's species of demon like very much embraces slavery in this world. So it's by no means going to be an easy transition when so many of the people who live there, like, this was integrated into their economy and their norm. So it is a very sort of like, anyway, you'll figure it out, Gru.
Yeah, because she puts Gru in charge. She wants to go back to Los Angeles. So her job back in LA is more important to her than staying here in Pylea. And so she fields the job of ruler to Gru. And I like the scene of when she's kissing him. Fred is like wide-eyed, holding the book and staring like a little kid, and Wesley and Gunn look away. Laura thought that it was to give Gru and Cordelia privacy, but I thought that it was like, she's our sister. I don't want to see my sister make out with someone.
It could be both respect and she's our sister. Oh.
And that's hot, which is how I felt. Wait, but Angel wasn't there, right? It didn't clock.
He was not.
It didn't
no.
show.
So yeah, Angel was with Lorne. So basically, it was Lorne picking up the rest of his body from his mom's house, and this is like a little tiny arc that he has, or it's a misdirect of an arc where the circle close where Angel is like, she stored your body for you when you came back. Like, that's incredible. And we think that, maybe Lorne's mom is coming to accept him, but she's actually just really mad that now, since the cows are freed, who's going to do our labor? Like, thanks a lot, Lorne and Lorne's friends. Now we're fucked even more than before. And as he's leaving, he tells Angel that, he always felt like he had to come back here, but he didn't know why. And perhaps the reason that he had to come back was to see that he didn't actually have to go back and he doesn't belong there. And LA is where he belongs.
And we get to see the gang return to the karaoke bar through a portal in the convertible. Now they've got 2 more ladies with them, Cordelia and Fred. And Cordelia is gushing to Fred about how she's going to have all the tacos and all the soap she could ever need.
Aww,
and
delicious.
They enter back home at the mansion, and Angel's like, there's no place like, sees a sad Willow. And quick cue, I'm sorry if I'm missing something obvious. What's Plrtz, Glrb?
Well, it's clearly Pylean for home.
Okay. Yeah, obviously. I'm so sorry that I didn't brush up on my Pylean.
I'm glad I'm now the language expert of the podcast.
You are.
And with a single look into Willow's sweet eyes, he knows it's Buffy.
Yeah, and so to just give a little quick kind of overview, if you haven't watched The Gift, which is the season 5 finale of Buffy, obviously feel free to go watch that or listen to the buffering episode. But I mean, the basics. I mean, I wrote like 8 paragraphs, but I could probably just say it in one sentence.
Maybe one sentence would be good.
Okay, Buffy died. But Buffy sacrificed herself in order. So actually there is a part that I want to talk about, and I'd love to hear LaToya's thoughts on this. But so basically the big bad in season 5 of Buffy is this hell god named Glory. She's trying to find the key which unlocks the gates between all the different dimensions. So obviously in Angel, we see that, obviously having just gone to Pylea, we know that there are other dimensions that exist along with the Earth dimension that, we are obviously used to. The reason that Buffy has to sacrifice herself is because she, Glory ends up getting the key essentially, and the threads between all the dimensions start to open, and in Sunnydale, this crazy ass dinosaur looking thing comes out. These warriors from other dimensions we've never seen start to come out. And so the reason that she has to sacrifice herself is to close the portal, kind of like how Angel had to close the portal in the end of season 2 of Buffy. But a thing that I think a really missed opportunity was when the cast of Angel is in Pylea. If they looked up into the sky and there started to be a thread tearing of the dimension and just being whoa, what was that? That's crazy, because that would make sense. Okay.
Because I know you were alluding to that earlier, basically, so I knew we were going to go there. I think the excuse could be made that time moves differently in other dimensions. So they could have been probably in the portal while that was actually happening. They wouldn't have known. There you go. It's been confusing. Also, just from a writing standpoint, if that was happening there, it would have kind of taken away the gut punch of Willow at the end. If I remember correctly, in terms of the actual timeline, all 3 of these Pylea episodes actually take place after The Gift. Possibly, if I remember correctly. I might be wrong on that. I'm just trying to remember, not in terms of how it aired, but if you're thinking of the actual timeline in the show, because Angel, especially later, plays a lot with how much time has passed. So
yeah, okay, I could see that. So it could have been before they even gotten there, or yeah. Just
as things were opening up in the world, so they could have been in the portal while that was all happening, and then got to Pylea and missed it completely.
Okay.
Yeah, it'd be a whole other thing for them to deal with. What the fuck's going on here?
Totally.
Before we do a farewell to you, I guess there's 2 more things I wanted to note about the episode.
Please.
I think Angel was the first show I ever watched that did the stealth guest star. You get the special guest star Allison Hannigan at the end of the episode. So I always appreciated it. They're how they did, special guest star Eliza Dushku at the end of the season 2 premiere. They get you with that surprise, and it's nice. I wish more shows would do that, honestly, because it's still not the norm, honestly, which sucks.
Totally.
Especially when there's just a really big guest star appearance, and you're well, I wonder who they're going to be. And now you're just waiting the whole episode to wonder who they're going to be. And then the other thing I forgot to mention earlier was, so when Lauren is with Angel and they're about to leave Pylea, and he's talking about his psychic friend, who you guys, of course, discussed in that episode.
Love her.
She is played by Persia White of Girlfriends fame. So I believe what happened was, at this time, Girlfriends was in its first season. And the plan was for her to come back to Angel for more episodes, but Girlfriends became a hit. It got renewed for a second season, so that just didn't happen. And at the time, that was on UPN, so.
Wow.
Damn, I would have loved her. Yeah, she had that energy. It felt like she was someone they were setting up to come back.
Yeah. And of course, Persia was also in another Buffy episode before she was in Angel, if you guys want to guess on that one.
What season?
Season 1. Everyone's like probably screaming listening to this now.
Why? Because they know?
Yes.
They know? Season 1.
Maybe I'm gonna say Witch?
No.
Prophecy Girl?
No.
Out of Mind, Out of Sight?
No.
God damn it. Is it going to be like an episode that I refuse to watch, like The Puppet Show?
No.
Okay. Is it Witch?
Do you want the answer? No, that was the first guess.
Damn it. Is it The Pack?
No.
Welcome to the Hellmouth.
Yes.
Oh, man.
She plays a Cordette, Aura. She is the one who finds the extremely dead guy in her locker.
Oh, yeah.
And she says hi to Aphrodisia.
Fuck. Wow.
Well, this is truly just a beautiful foreshadowing of what everyone can look forward to in season 3 of Angel on Top.
Truly.
Me asking you guys questions and you failing miserably.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah, pretty much. I really hope I get more opportunities to fail if you will have us back.
Yeah. Of course. I will, of course, have you back. I will say also Persia White has an arc on the Vampire Diaries as well. So, and she met her...
Put that near Vampire Diary.
Yeah, put that in Vampire Diary. She met her husband on that show, so...
Damn, you know a lot about Persia.
I do. I know about Black people.
Love it. Thank you for listening to this episode of Angel on Top. I'm Laura Zach. You can find me on Instagram at Laura Zach or on Twitter at la_wa.
And I'm Brittany Ashley, and you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Brit27Ash. And Latoya, where can the people find you?
They can find me on Twitter at LaFergs. I do not have an Instagram. I am sorry. And of course, you can find my Vampire Diaries podcast at Amp Diaries Pod.
Hell yeah. And you can also find Latoya on Angel on Top for season 3. And you can find Angel on Top on Instagram and Twitter at Angel on Topcast. And you can email us, the collective us, at angelontoppodcast@gmail.com.
It has been an honor and a privilege to be your host for 2 seasons. We will be back for Angel on Pot segments and to join Latoya to discuss episodes at points in season 3. But before then, we'll see you for our discussion of I Only Have Eyes for You on Patreon.
And now, please enjoy the poem for There's No Place Like Plrtz Glrb through Angel's perspective.
There's no place like Plrtz Glrb. I wake up in a love cave, sun dappled by light. Despite going full monster, Fred's tender, no fright. She says we've all got our demons. Compared to mine, she's got nada. It's tacos she's missing. We settle for bark enchilada. The sun's a perk, but is it better for me here? Maybe not. Would have ripped my friends to shreds if I'd been given the shot. I refuse to believe we're stuck here. Landoc traveled after all. You have hope when you've been to hell and survived the fall. If this cave's so safe, how'd these goons get the jump? The captain's spear comes for me, targets my rump. Despite invasive intentions, I refuse to turn beast, which almost spells death. Fred's in my corner at least. I come to a second time with my constant protector. She says I'm not beastly, but I'm quick to deflect her. The captain still kickin', calls Cordy cow bitch. Plus boasts of Lauren's death, plays with my demonic on switch. Rebels made Wesley leader. That's one choice, I guess. Lauren's just ahead, still chatty nonetheless. For me, a face-off with the champions, part of their plan. How can I hold on against an undefeated man? Wes says I'm human with demon, not the other way around. Not sure I believe it, but I do like its sound. So like any champ would, I asked Gru for a battle. The thing with his hand in fire, I'll be honest, I was rattled. He's got the advantage till I can hold back no longer. When full Angrel comes out, I'm most definitely stronger. About to end him when I gain self-control, show some class. Cordy tells Gru she loves him and calls me a dumbass. I encourage Lauren and his mother to reconcile, but that and abolitionist reconstruction should take a while. Car crashes back into bar. Hey, we're home. What'd we miss? Willow's face tells me it's worse than Pylea, this abyss.
Tony Griselli, Sal Viola, Vale Ventresca, Morelli, Limp DeMarco, Caruso, Lieutenant Giordano, Lieutenant El Dente, Bob Bertone, Sal Battaglio, Don Carbone, Uncle Sal, Tony Romano, Frankie Carbonaro, Donnie Diamond, Sal Licati, Lou Guetta, Mr. Tortellino, Federico De Luna, Mr. Cacciatore, Don Piano.
Welcome to the small town of Chinook, where faith runs deep and secrets run deeper. In this new thriller, religion and crime collide when a gruesome murder rocks the isolated Montana community. Everyone is quick to point their fingers at a drug-addicted teenager, but local deputy Ruth Vogel isn't convinced. She suspects connections to a powerful religious group. Enter federal agent V.B. Lauro, who has been investigating a local church for possible criminal activity. The pair form an unlikely partnership to catch the killer, unearthing secrets that leave Ruth torn between her duty to the law, her religious convictions, and her very own family. But something more sinister than murder is afoot, and someone is watching Ruth. Chinook, starring Kelly Marie Tran and Sanaa Lathan. Listen to Chinook wherever you get your podcasts.
Nowadays, trends and news cycles change faster than we can blink. But there are some things that withstand the test of time. And if you're looking for a connection to something timeless, and maybe also a glimpse of life at a slower pace, I believe everyone can relate to the very human experiences explored in Jane Austen's novels. And that's where I come in. My name is Alison Larkin. I'm a writer, comedian, and narrator and host of the Jane Austen podcast with Alison Larkin. I spent a lot of my childhood in the part of England where Jane Austen lived and wrote, and now that I live in the States, nothing gives me a sense of homecoming quite like narrating her books. On this show, you'll listen to award-winning narration. I'll give myself a pat on the back for that. As well as conversations with actors, writers, and other fascinating people who all share a passionate love for Jane Austen. So please, join me as we embark on a wonderful journey through Jane Austen's work. Be sure to listen and subscribe to the Jane Austen podcast with Alison Larkin, wherever you get your podcasts.